Hello, I'm Evan Barr, and this is our RipMix feed. Within this, I'm going to examine the history of the library, how it originated, and analyze the chronological development of the library as a place of information. So, the collection of written knowledge in some sort of repository is a practice as old as civilization itself. About 30,000 clay tablets found in ancient Mesopotamia date back more than 5,000 years. Archaeologists have also uncovered papyrus scrolls from the 1300 and 1200 BC in the ancient Egyptian cities of Amada and Thebes, and thousands of clay tablets at the palace of Navia under the ruler Sennacherib. However, it was the ancient Greeks that really propelled the idea of a library. Through their heightened interest in literacy and general intellectual life. Though the public library first appeared by the 4th century BC, the private library was far more prevalent. Aristotle, for instance, amassed a large private collection. Ancient geographer Strabo said Aristotle was the first to have put together a collection of books and to have taught the kings of Egypt how to arrange the library. This library, of course, was the Great Library of Alexandria. It was a public library open to those with the proper scholarly and literacy qualifications, and it was founded about 300 BC. The library's goal was to collect 500,000 scrolls, and it engaged in some unorthodox acquisition methods. Some stories relate that they confiscated any book that was not already in the library from passengers arriving in Alexandria. Nevertheless, Alexandria became the intellectual capital of the world and gave other libraries a model to follow. By the middle of the 2nd century BC, Rome also boasted rich library resources. Initially comprised of some scattered private collection holdings, eventually expanded through the spoils of war. Even Aristotle's famed collection was among the bounty. Julius Caesar dreamed of establishing a public library in Rome, but his vision was cut short by his assassination. After Caesar's death, though, Asinius Pollio acquired the requisite funds to make this dream a reality. Still, the libraries remained in the domain of the scholars, and the general public didn't have really anywhere to go to learn. That changed, though, with the imperial baths. At the baths, men and women, rich and poor, could take a bath, meet with friends, play ball, and read a book. Libraries were added to the bath in the 3rd century. You can see an image of the ruins of the bath there. In 378, after the fall of Rome, the historian Arminius Mucilius commented that libraries are closing forever, like tombs. As the Roman Empire fell, libraries seemed doomed to extinction. But in the early 500s, in Egypt, a man named Pachomius established a monastery and insisted on literacy among his monks. This was to have a long-lasting spread, even after the Roman Empire split in two about 100 years later. Sparked by the spread of Christianity, the eastern half of the empire did much to foster the use of libraries. The capital city of Constantinople had 3 major libraries. Even though libraries disappeared in the Western Empire due to invasion, lack of funds and lack of interest, monasticism gave rise to an explosion of learning. In 529 AD, Benedict established a monastery in Monte Cassino and established a rule by which all monks should live. This was called Chapter 48. And it said that between Easter and October, they must apply themselves to reading from the 4th hour until the 6th hour, so 2 hours a day. During Lent, they also had to apply themselves to reading from morning until the end of the 3rd hour, and they must receive 1 book apiece from the library and read it straight through. These books are to be given out at the beginning of Lent. The Benedictines created libraries, and the scriptorium became sacred. It soon became customary for monasteries to lend to other monasteries, and this gave rise to the interlibrary loan. During the Renaissance, Europe emerged from the depth of darkness into the light of learning. Its people began to look at the Greek and Roman artistic and literary classics for inspiration. Many aristocrats of the period were dedicated to developing their private libraries. One, for instance, was Cosimo de' Medici. He was from the famous Florentine family in Italy, and he established his own collection, which formed the basis of the Laurentian Library. Also in Italy, the Vatican Library opened in the 1400s. Obviously, the development of Gutenberg's movable printing press in the 1400s revolutionized bookmaking. Printed books replaced handwritten manuscripts and were placed on open shelves, so that transformation shifted the way libraries operated and the way libraries looked, which gave rise to the golden age of libraries. In the 1600s and 1700s, libraries surged in popularity. They grew as universities developed and as national, state-supported collections began to appear. Many of these became national libraries. Here we see Oxford's library, which was built when Humphrey, Duke of Gloucester, donated his collection to the school. So that's an example. The oldest library in America began with a 400-book donation by a Massachusetts clergyman, John Harvard, to the new university that eventually honored him by adopting his name. You see the picture of the Harvard Library there. It wasn't until the waves of immigration and the philosophy of free public education for children that public libraries spread in the U.S. The first public library in the country opened in Peterborough, New Hampshire in 1833. Andrew Carnegie helped build more than 1,700 public libraries in the U.S. between 1881 and 1918. Libraries really haven't changed a lot since then, but the necessary repository for knowledge remains. In my earlier presentation, I talked about some suggestions on how libraries should change and how they can develop to alter the way in which they present information. But I feel this is a good historical analysis of how libraries progressed to their present form. Thank you.